Forensic Science Lecture 16-3, Classification of Fingerprints. The ACE-V process is an acronym for the four-step process used to identify and individualize prints. It includes an analysis, a comparison, an evaluation, and a verification. In the analysis portion, it requires an examiner to identify any distortions as well as any external factors, such as the surface it may be on, how it was deposited, or the processing techniques. And what they're looking for is anything that may impinge or hinder the print's appearance. If the examiner deems that print adequate to be evaluated, it will then move into the comparison process. Comparison process uses the question print to compare it at three different levels. Level 1 is looking at the general ridge flow and pattern configuration. Then it moves to location and compares the ridge characteristics or the minutiae. And then level 3 examines and locates the ridge's pores, any breaks, creases, scars, and other permanent minutiae that help to identify or individualize that print. Once the comparison process is over, evaluation takes place, and one of three decisions is made. Is it an identification? Is the latent print and the exemplar print from the same source? Or is it excluded? Is the latent print and the exemplar print not from the same source or doesn't match? Or is it inconclusive? Inconclusive is one can't determine the latent print and the exemplar print coming from the same source. There isn't sufficiently strong a level of certainty to identify this print. So once one of those three is those decisions is made, typically identification, it then moves into the verification process. And this is the examiner's conclusions have to be confirmed by a second examiner. So that second examiner has to take the question print and the known print and identify it. The consensus between the two examiners needs to be arrived at before a final conclusion is drawn. And it's either confirmed by the second examiner that they are a match, or it is denied. But the primary classification of fingerprints, the original Henry system converted ridge patterns on all 10 fingers to a series of letters and numbers arranged in the form of a fraction. It could only, however, accommodate files of up to 1,000 sets of prints, so it became necessary to expand the capacity of the classification as prints became more and more common. So they modified and extended the system, and is used in most agencies today. It's now known as the FBI system, which is part of the original Henry system, and then which provides the first step of the FBI system, and it's based on the knowledge of fingerprint patterns. So the first step is to pair up the fingers, placing one finger in the numerator of the fraction and the other in the denominator. The fingers are paired as follows. The right index is paired with the right thumb, the right ring with the right middle, left thumb, right little finger, left middle, left index, left little, left thumb. Then what they look for is the presence of a whorl pattern for the determination of the primary classification. So if a whorl pattern is on any of the fingers in pair 1, it's assigned a value of 16. Any on the second pair, 8, third pair, 4, fourth pair, 2, and the last pair, 1. Any fingers that have a loop or an arch is assigned a 0. After the values are obtained, they're totaled, and then a 1 is added to both the numerator and the denominator. That fraction obtained is what is known as the primary classification. Approximately 25% of the population fall into the one-to-one category because most people have loops. So all fingers either have a loop or an arch. Fingerprint classification can't unequivocally identify an individual. It merely provides an examiner a number of candidates. Individualization is made by final comparison with the experts. Candidates, all of whom have indistinguishable sets of prints in the file system, or who is looked at when coming with their primary classification. And so this is what gives them those candidates. And then they're looking at the feature of typing and position of those ridges to individualize. This ends lecture 16-3. There's a quiz next class.